Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. Right, we all know by now, 48 nations at the 2026 World Cup, move on. We have done two videos where we've looked at teams that will be at the World Cup. I'm being really specific in this video and saying these teams might make it to the World Cup. Right, let's get on with it. Starting with number one, Uzbekistan. Uzbekistan have been climbing the FIFA rankings in the last few years, going from 95th in 2018 to now in 2023 being 77th. In terms of the Asian Confederation, this season was the 10th best ranked nation. And with 3 years still to go to the World Cup, there's plenty of time for Uzbekistan to continue making gains. Eldar Shomurodov is their standout player. The 27-year-old Roman striker is currently one goal away from equalising their all-time goal-scoring record, which is held by Maxim Chatic. And at 27, I think that's a record that Shomurodov will easily surpass. They missed the 2022 World Cup after a 3-0 loss to Saudi Arabia meant they finished second in their group and did not place high enough to qualify as a best placed second team, meaning they didn't advance to the next round of the Asian qualifications. Looking ahead to 2026, you'd imagine the 6 nations that we saw in Qatar will be the same 6 we'll see in North America. So that leaves 2 additional spots and a playoff spot as well, which they could get. They'll be competing against the likes of Iraq and Oman, who in my previous videos I've tipped to be at the World Cup. If Uzbekistan do qualify, they'll be making their debut at a World Cup, and even if they don't make it in 2026, I think it's only a matter of time before we start seeing the White Wolves at World Cup tournaments. Number 2, Wales. Yes, I know, Wales were just in the World Cup, so why are they only maybes for 2026? Well, they're a bit of an end of an era, aren't they, with Gareth Bale recently announcing his retirement, and also with the likes of Aaron Ramsey, Joe Allen and Wayne Hennessy unlikely to be around in 2026. The manager Rob Page has got a big rebuilding job on his hands. The likes of Dan James, Ben Davis and Harry Wilson will remain regulars, with Ifa Pandu looking good in defence. There's also some hope up front as well if Brennan Johnson can start scoring internationally as he's doing for Nottingham Forest in the Premier League. But overall, the team just don't really look that fantastic on paper, do they? Their athleticism at the World Cup seemed to be a problem as well, something that Page has said that he will address. And tactically, they couldn't really pose much threat going forward. This Welsh team have inspired a generation, and the Welsh FA have announced that they're going to spend £12.6 million on grassroots football and the infrastructure to make sure that the next generation have the facilities to progress and become future footballers. Big job for Rob Page. I wish him luck. They've got Euro qualifiers coming up and it's a tough group with Croatia, Turkey, Latvia and Armenia. Let's see how they get on and what this new look Wales squad can do. Number 3, Israel. Israel are another nation who has slowly been climbing the FIFA rankings. They were 93rd in 2019 and now sit 76. And this is following winning their Nations League group in 2022 and picking up some decent wins this decade over Scotland, Slovakia and Austria. I think what is most intriguing about the Israel team is actually their under-21s and their under-20s. Starting with the under-20 team, they qualified for the under-20 World Cup for the first time, which takes place in Indonesia later this year. Qualification was based on performance in the under-19 Championship tournament, which Israel came runners-up, losing to England in the final. They did beat France and Austria on the way as well. The under-21s also qualified for the under-21 European Championship after finishing second in their group and beating Republic of Ireland in a playoff. It looks to me like they're entering a period where they can gel some really good young players who have tournament experience with some of the decent players that they've already got in that squad. Now that isn't to say that Israel are all of a sudden going to become some sort of mega power in international football. We'd have heard of these players if they were really that good. But who knows, this next generation of players could be good enough to see them to a World Cup. Only time will tell, but it's for this uncertainty I have to say that Israel are only a maybe. Number 4, North Korea. Don't click off the video, just hear me out for a second, okay? In the World Cup qualifiers for Qatar, North Korea actually withdrew with 3 games left and with 8 points in a pretty strong position, meaning they not only sacrificed their place in Qatar, but also for the Asia Cup, which is taking place later this year. Their last 3 games would have been away to South Korea, but then 2 home games against Turkmenistan and Lebanon, who they'd already beaten. They would have fancied the chances in the home games and only needed 4 points and they would have qualified to the next round. So the reason they're a maybe is because they haven't played a competitive game since 2019, so therefore we know nothing about them at this point. I mean, I would say that probably goes against their advantage, but they could be really good. And for a country so secretive, they could have 11 North Korean Messis hiding away somewhere that we just don't know about. North Korea have made it before, remember. They made it in 2010 where there were less spots available. It is confirmed that they will start playing internationally again, so they will be in the pot for the 2026 World Cup. Who knows? Let's see how they get on. Number 5, Burkina Faso. Over to Africa, and my next maybe team are Burkina Faso, who are currently ranked 10th out of all of the African teams. Burkina Faso have never been to a World Cup, having always been there or thereabouts in qualifying, but never being able to beat some of the bigger African nations. In 2022, they didn't actually make it out of their group in qualifying, coming behind Algeria, who were in the middle of a 2-year unbeaten run. However, they did draw both games against Algeria, So if they'd been in another group, they may have been able to get through to that last game qualifier. They did have a solid 2022, reaching the semi-finals of the AFCON, but losing to Senegal 3-1. But they picked up good wins against Ivory Coast, the DR Congo and Tunisia. Some of their more notable players are centre-back Tetsoba of Bayern Leverkusen, who's attracted some interest from top teams. You've also got Isaac Kabore of Man City, who's currently on loan at Marseille, and Aston Villa's Bertrand Traore, who's currently on loan to Istanbul. So in summary, Burkina Faso are a decent team, but they're in a highly competitive confederation and they're not quite as good as the likes of Morocco, Tunisia and Senegal. Having said that, there's 9 spots available and 1 playoff place, and they are good enough to compete. And that's my list, 5 teams that might make it into the World Cup. What do you think? Have I been a bit harsh on Wales? Let me know in the comments. Please like, subscribe, and I'll speak to you again soon.